time for day 3. A big indicator of how stressed we are is linked to the tension in our bodies. I know I need to take a step back and practice some self-care when I wake up every morning with a tight, clenched jaw. For this exercise, we will be painting different shapes. This teaches us brush control, something that I really need to work on as an artist continually. I tend to paint round shapes a lot because my main subject matter is flowers. So practicing shapes that have pointed edges like triangles and squares is a great way to master brush control. Every time I paint a few shapes, I'm going to pause, take a deep breath, and notice where I'm carrying tension. Am I clenching my jaw? If so, I can massage my cheeks and my temples. Do I feel tension in my shoulders? If I do, I'll do a few shoulder rolls. Is it in my lower back? Maybe I need to do a few stretches to help alleviate the tension. Taking the time to assess how you feel physically can help you address and relax and decide if you need to adjust things in your life to reduce stress.
Now for these shapes, I'm going to focus on squares and triangles, shapes that have pointed corners, because this is something that I need to work on as an artist. I tend to paint a lot of round shapes because I focus a lot on florals. And I noticed that when I was painting architectural subjects that I was struggling to get really sharp corners. So this is a really good exercise for me. And but you're welcome to do any shapes that you want. So if you want to throw in some ovals or circles or shapes with rounded edges, that's totally fine. For this exercise, I'm going to focus on squares and triangles. Now I'm going back to my green and blue color palette. It's just one that speaks to me. And I am just adding in some new shapes. Dabbing a little color here and there, add some variety. Now that I have 2 shapes and I'm ready to start on my 3rd, this is where I need to practice some self-care and pause and stretch. I'm taking notice of where I have tension. I'm going to relax my jaw. And then once I have done that exercise, I'm going to move on and start painting some more shapes. So this is what you're going to do throughout this exercise. You're going to paint a few shapes. Pause, stretch, massage your temples, whatever it is that you feel like will help you relieve tension in your body. We tend to carry a lot of tension when we're stressed. I especially carry tension in my shoulders and in my jaw. I tend to clench my jaw when I sleep, and so it's good for me to do this exercise because it's soothing to do the watercolors, and then take a little break every few minutes and notice what I need to intentionally loosen up. I'm just placing shapes randomly throughout the paper. I'm just letting the composition develop as I go. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And you can do the same thing. Place them wherever you want, wherever your heart desires. Done a few more shapes, so I'm going to go ahead and pause and stretch again. I encourage you to do the same thing when you're ready. Continue to fill your page with shapes. You can change your colors as you go. You can add in different types of shapes, play with the composition. It's totally up to you. Just remember that every few new shapes, you should pause and try and relax your body in different ways. Sometimes I'll get on the floor and do child's pose, which is a yoga position where you are stretching your back. You can do some torso twists in your chair and loosen up your lower back. Whatever it is that you want to do to relieve tension in your body is perfect and is going to help you in the long run relieve stress.
Today we are trying another simple beach landscape. Let's have a look at the colors first. As you can see here, for the sky I have used two colors, a blue on the top and an orange at the bottom. The blue is royal blue and the orange is brilliant orange. We need a medium to lighter tone of both the colors. Then to add the shadows, I'll be using a little of Payne's Grey. I will also be using Payne's Grey to add the details at the bottom, the darker tones you see here. Along with Payne's Grey, you will also need some sap green to finish off the landscape. Alright, so those are the colors you will need. Now I will swatch out one by one. I will start with royal blue. It's a bright and beautiful blue, especially if you use that in its strongest form without adding a lot of water. Right here, I'm going with a medium tone to a lighter tone. You can see the color on the painting. So in this case, you can use any other blue of your choice. It can be Prussian blue, cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, or any other blue. We just need a medium to lighter tone of blue for the sky. Okay, so that can be any blue. Don't worry if you don't have royal blue. That's a color if you use that in its strongest form without adding a lot of water. But as you can see here for the painting, we are not using that strong color. It's a really lighter tone that we're using. So as I mentioned, it doesn't really matter which blue you're using. The second color you will need is orange. Again, a really lighter tone. You can use a lighter tone of vermilion or any other kind of orange. Okay, so those are the two colors we'll be using for the sky. This is for the background layer. Now along with this, we'll also be adding few clouds, which you can see on the right side of the sky. It's a really light tone of Payne's Grey. For all the skies we did so far, we only did a gradient wash or a blending technique. Today, we are going to add a little of clouds onto it to make it a little interesting. It's not a complicated step. I will guide you through, so don't worry about it. Alright, so those are the three colors we'll be using for the sky. Now comes sap green, which is the color I'll be using for the landscape at the bottom. We'll be turning that into olive green by mixing some orange. Now the color you see for the sea here is actually a mix of sap green and royal blue. You will get a beautiful turquoisey color when mixing sap green and any blue. See that? So that's the color I'll be using for the sea. If you want to use turquoise blue as it is, you could do that. Or you can just mix any blue that you're using for the sky with a little of sap green to create a similar color. Okay, so the idea is using very limited colors, not squeezing out a lot of colors on your palette and confusing yourself. So for this painting here, we are only using 4 colors technically, but we'll be mixing sap green and royal blue to create that beautiful blue you see at the bottom. And we'll also be mixing some sap green with orange to create that pretty olive green. Okay, so take out any blue, any orange. It can be vermilion or scarlet or any other orange. Then some Payne's Grey and also some sap green. Those are the only 4 colors you will need. Alright, now let's give it a try. Alright, so I have my paper and a clean palette. I have all the colors ready, the brushes and 2 jars of clean water. Now I'm going to start by adding the sketch, which is just some simple lines. First we need to add a horizon line, then we need to add those small mountains. Then we need to show that landscape at the bottom, which is just an irregular line. So that's my horizon line. Now I'm going to add an irregular line. So by adding this line, we are going to separate the sea as well as the landscape. So the area you see in between the horizon line and the line we added right now, it's the same. Okay. Now we need to add some small mountains along the horizon line, which is not really necessary. You can add them when we are painting. But if you want to add them, you can go ahead and add them in. We want to give a feel that these mountains are really far, so go with a similar size if you're adding the sketch. Alright, so that's the sketch. Now I'm going to squeeze out the colors. For the sky, I will need 2 colors for the base layer, which can be any blue and any orange. We just need a medium to lighter tone of those 2 colors. So first, I'm going to squeeze out some royal blue. Now I will squeeze out some brilliant orange. Again, it can be any blue and any orange because the colors that I'm using here are not really common. It doesn't come in the basic watercolor sets. The old beginner artist me, if I hear these color names, I might panic and I might not even attempt that painting hearing those fancy names for the colors. So that's something I wanted to make you clear. You can use any orange and any blue. We are just using a medium tone. It doesn't really matter which blue and orange you're using. The result is going to be almost the same. Now the next color you will need is Payne's Grey. Different brands have different names for their colors. For example, brilliant orange is cadmium orange in some other brands. Anyways, let's start our journey. So to apply a coat of water onto the sky, I'm using a 1-inch wash brush. We are trying a simple wet on wet sky. So pick some water with any of your clean brush and apply that evenly onto the entire sky. Add that along the horizon line and just make it even by running your brush multiple times. Okay, so my sky is evenly wet. Now we can start applying the paint. So the base layer is a blend of blue and orange, a lighter tone. And to apply that colors, I'm using my flat brush. And first I'm picking a medium tone of blue. It's not too dark and not too light as well. Start with a medium tone. Then as you're reaching the center of the paper, center of the sky, you can make it lighter. See the color? It is quite similar to Prussian blue. I will apply a bit more paint. Then I will make it lighter. Whenever you're painting a clean blend, always try to run your brush in horizontal direction. Don't mix up different kind of brush movements. This might leave some brush marks in your sky and you won't be able to get that clean, beautiful blend. Okay, now I'm cleaning my brush and using some clean water, I'm making the rest of the area lighter. Just gently run your brush back and forth in a horizontal direction. So that's the first color. Now I'm cleaning my brush again, just to be sure there is no blue paint on it. Now I'm picking a lighter tone of orange and I'm adding that along the horizon line. We just need a lighter tone. See the color? So that's the kind of tonal value I'm going with. Now where these two colors are meeting, try to make it a clean blend. Okay, so that's a base layer. Now I'm going to keep this brush aside and I'm switching to a smaller round brush. Just make sure it is clean. I think this one had some yellow paint on it. Now I'm picking a lighter tone of Payne's Gray, a really lighter tone. The tonal value is something you have to be really careful about. We just need a lighter tone and shouldn't be too watery as well. So once you have taken the paint, you can dab it on a paper towel to be sure it is not too watery. And you can keep adding some small clouds. See that? Keep adding them until you're happy with the result. I'm not planning to add a lot. I don't want to make the sky look too dramatic. So I'm just adding few lines towards the right side using a lighter tone of Payne's Gray. If you use a darker tone, they will be too prominent and your sky will start to look a bit dramatic. So depending on the kind of sky you want, you can choose to go with a darker tone or a lighter tone like this. I want a soft and simple sky. That's why I'm using a lighter tone. Okay, so that's my sky. I'm pretty happy with it. It looks really soft and simple, just the way how I wanted it to be. Now let's leave it for drying. The sky looks even more simple and soft right now when the colors dried. Anyway, our next step is to paint the scene, for which I want a turquoisey kind of a color, and to create that color, I'm going to mix a little of sap green with royal blue. You can mix sap green with any of the blue that you use for the sky. It doesn't need to be royal blue, Prussian blue or any other blue. By mixing sap green with any blue, you will create a beautiful greenish blue. And that is exactly what we are going to do right now. So just don't worry if your blue is different from mine. Now I'm picking a little of blue and a little of sap green as well. And I'm mixing them together. I'm adding some more blue because the color is really greenish. Okay, that looks nice. I will swatch out this color on a scrap piece of paper so you will have a better idea. And here is the color that I created. Such a beautiful color, right? Now to the same mix, if you add more blue, the color will look slightly different. See that? So this one has more blue in it. Now we need a lighter tone of this. This one looks a bit brighter. So I'm adding 2 drops of water. And let's add that color onto the entire scene. Add it along the horizon line. And simply fill up that entire area in a solid wash. Maybe we can make it a bit more lighter. Now I'm just filling that entire area. So this color is a mix of sap green and royal blue. As I mentioned earlier, you can mix any blue with sap green to create a similar shade. Okay. Now fill it up and leave it for drying. Okay, so that is dried. Now our next step is to add in some texture onto the sea. Right now it looks quite flat and plain. So I'm using the same color that I created earlier. And I'm adding some teeny tiny lines onto the entire sea. They are not too bold and they are not too prominent as well. See that? That's a thin line using a medium tone of the color we used earlier. Now simply add them in and fill up the entire sea. This one is a very simple task, but might be a bit time consuming. So if you want to take a break in between, feel free to do that. You can see the way how I'm adding them. There is nothing to worry here. You simply need to keep on adding that short, thin lines. See that? Keep adding them. This is just to create a texture. Otherwise, the sea will look quite blank and lifeless. So keep adding them until you feel like it has got a texture. Now closer to the horizon line, I'm adding a few more using a slightly darker tone. Not too dark, it is again a medium tone. You can see the color. That's a kind of tonal value you should be using because we're going to add a mountain along the horizon line right above these areas. So when we add those lines using a slightly brighter tone, it will look like the reflection. So we don't need to go ahead and add the reflection later. So just add a few more lines and with that we are done. Alright, so that is done. Now using the same color, I'm going to add the mountains, which is far away. So we don't need a darker tone. Maybe you can add in a little of blue, or you can use the same color as it is. Now let's add in the mountains. I'm planning to add one at the center and two longer mountains on either side. You can add them however you want to. But the only thing you need to keep in mind is the size and the tonal value. Don't make it too huge. Go with a similar size and also a similar tonal value. That's the first one on the left side. Now I'm going to add another one at the center, a smaller one. After this, I will add one more towards the right side. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, so that is done. Now the only task left is to paint the landscape at the bottom, for which I'm going to use an olive green kind of a color towards the bottom. Then onto the top, I will use paint spray. So I already have some orange on my palette and some sap green as well. If you don't want to use olive green, you can use sap green as it is. But for me, I thought it's nice to bring in that muted green to the painting rather than using a bright green. Okay, so using my size number 8 round brush, I'm mixing orange and green together to create an olive green. Okay, you can see it's a more earthy green. Now using that green, I'm going to fill up the bottom part. Then as I go towards the top, I will use some sap green as well as paint spray to introduce some darker tones. It's a beautiful earthy green. Depending on the amount of orange that you're adding, the color will look slightly different, but that's totally okay. Now towards the top, I'm going to introduce some sap green just to give it some freshness. For this step, you can use a medium brush or a bigger brush so that you can apply the paint onto a larger area quite quickly. When you use a smaller brush, you will have to run your brush multiple times, and that might leave some brush marks. Anyways, now I'm going to introduce the darker tone. I'm picking some sap green, mixing that with paint spray, and I'm adding that towards the top. Just add some teeny tiny shapes on the top and fill up the remaining area. We only have a little area left, so keep adding some tiny patterns like this, using the tip of your brush, and fill it up and blend that with the green. See that? Now in a similar way, we need to finish this entire line. So the color that I'm using right now is a mix of paint spray and sap green. I just created a darker green, and I'm adding that onto this area we have on the top. Okay, so the first step is to add those different tonal values of green onto the background. Now you can pick up some olive green that you created earlier. And what we need to do is, we need to simply keep on pushing and pulling the paint into each other to create some texture here. See that? So just drag your brush from top to bottom and add in some random patterns. While the background is still wet, don't wait for a lot of time. So this doesn't need to look super clean and evenly blended. You can keep adding your paint onto that wet background before it dries, so that it won't be too prominent. It will just spread into the background, leaving some soft mark. Okay, so keep adding your paint and create some random patterns like this. Now I'm adding some grassy lines from the bottom towards the top. My background is still wet, so this won't be too prominent. So keep adding those long curvy lines using that medium tone until you feel like you have got a grassy texture. Mine is starting to dry, so I'm just going to call it done. Now in between, in case if your background is starting to dry, you can just apply a little more olive green towards the bottom. Just one more layer of paint to make the background wet. Then you can keep adding those darker tones again. Okay? So if your background is starting to dry, there is nothing to worry. You can apply another layer and repeat the same step. We are actually done with our painting, but there is one last thing I would like to do. I feel like those mountains we added earlier were looking really dull. So into the same color, I'm adding some more blue. And I'm going to add another layer on top of it to make it a little more prominent. So this one is really optional. If your mountains are looking quite prominent already, you can just skip the step. For me, I felt like it is good to add another layer. Everyone's perception is different, so you might not feel that way. You might be happy with the result already. In that case, don't touch it. Just call it down and peel off the masking tape and enjoy your painting. For me, for some reason, I felt it can be a bit more brighter. I might be wrong. Maybe you like lighter colors, or maybe you already used a brighter color like this. So yeah, just look at your painting and decide accordingly. And that's it. So here is our painting for day 5. There are some color combinations and some subjects which gives you a feel that you have just come back from a vacation. I think this painting is such a kind. By looking at the painting, I can really feel that fresh air and the calming sound of waves. I really enjoyed painting this. I hope you all did too. And here's our painting, a relaxing day by the beach. Look at that. Such a beautiful color palette, right? I really like the sky, especially the colors we have used. And also that olive green color we created. That also turned out pretty nice. Anyway, that's a beautiful color combination and a beautiful painting too. I hope you all liked it, and I hope you all had a relaxing time.
Welcome to day 10. Let's start with our breathing exercises. For today's practice, we're going to combine some of the watercolor exercises that we did and create a motivational card. I'm going to continue using 5x7 cards, but feel free to use whatever you want. For these cards, what I essentially did was combine one of the abstract shapes and the leaves. So for this one, I combined the circles of affirmation and leaves. These were the lines and leaves. This is just one giant circle and a wreath of leaves. This is probably my favorite. I've got 2 arches and then some leaves as well. If you want to, you can write a message at the bottom, and it can be inspired by the things that you wrote. You can take one of the positive alternatives that you did, write something that you're thankful for, write down one of your dreams, maybe something that sparks joy in your life, or an affirmation. As you create these motivational cards, keep practicing mindfulness and the breathing as you pick up the paint, wash out your brush, paint a leaf, etc. Breathe and let yourself actually get lost in the process of creating. After you're all done, feel free to display these cards for yourself, give them away as greeting cards for friends, share it with someone who really needs to hear a positive message. Now you can create one or multiple like I did, and you can continue to create these in the future as you need them. I'm going to create 2 during this session. I really like this arches one and this circle with a leaf wreath because you know how much I love wreaths. So feel free to paint along with me, or you can paint whatever your heart desires. Let this circle dry and then go on to the arches. For these larger arches, I'm going to use the 1/2-inch flat brush. going to let those arches dry as well. I love the bleed that's happening. I know sometimes people don't like that when that happens, but that's part of the reason why painting with watercolors really allows you to let go of perfectionism. So let this dry. I'm going to go back to the circle. Now, since I'm overlaying some of the leaves on top of the circle, I really want to make sure that this is completely dry. So again, you can speed up the drying process with a hair dryer or just be patient. I'm going to use a smaller round size 3 brush just so I can get small leaves all around my wreath. I'm going to apply some color theory here. The reason why I love this teal and orange combination is because they're opposites on the color wheel. So with this orange circle, I'm just going to do the exact opposite, but then add just a little bit of darker blue in there. Do small leaves to start. And I'm only painting maybe 2 or 3 leaves per stem. But it's really up to you how you want to paint this. What's really cool is that, because of the transparent nature of watercolors, where the blue is on top of the orange, you're seeing the overlay color, and that's just so cool. I'm just going to go in here and fill in some of these emptier spots with some more leaves. Now I'm just going to finish up the arches one. Similar to my first example, I'm just going to do one giant stem of leaves. So for that, I'm going to go back to my size 6 round brush. Because the value of these arches are fairly dark, I'm going to make sure that my green of the leaves is going to be darker in value too. Otherwise, it won't stand out. I'm going to do one long stem. I just had another idea. Something else that you could do to help your maybe leaves stand out is to add some metallics. And there you have it. Again, you can write a message along the bottom if you'd like. You don't have to, you can just put it up. Perhaps it's already a reminder to you, like these arches of dreams and this circle of affirmation.